All right, welcome to another episode of the Myokinetix Podcast. Today I have my guy, Adon Shuler. Like he's the kid. You guys know him, from Irvington. He's going to Notre Dame next year, and this is one of the hardest working kids that I have the pleasure to work with. And he's just a young man that acting super professional. I think having him on the show really gonna paint a lot of picture of who he is, but also give a lot of advice to the younger athletes out there, especially looking to follow his footstep, pave their own path to play at, D1 level and continue to play, pursuing their dream of playing the NFL. So, Don, man, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So, before we get into it, can you tell the listener a little bit about your background? Because I know people see you on Instagram. They know you're going to All-American. You're going to Notre Dame. You've been very heavily recruited since, your sophomore year. Mm-hmm. But let's tell them about the personal side, your family side, how you got into football and all of that.
For one, I started playing football. Wasn't the first sport I played. I played basketball, played a little soccer, but it wasn't really until I started watching Frank Gore, Deshaun Jackson that really made me want to really start playing football. My father played football at Irvington High School as well, and I heard a lot of stories about how he played, and I just and I want to play football too. I want to, be my father's legacy, have a better legacy than him. So that's just how I fell in love with the game. Yeah.
So when did you start, switching over to I'm going to focus on football a little bit more?
I would say it actually just happened itself because when I was younger, football season, summertime, I wasn't in school, so I didn't have to worry about grades and stuff, and I'll be good during football season. Then basketball season will come around and I'll get in trouble. So my father all right, you got to focus on your grades at this point. So I kind of fell out of love with basketball, and the football just became my main sport.
Mm-hmm. And what grade was that?
That was around third, fourth grade is when I really was okay, this is really what I want to do. I want to be a professional athlete.
Wow. So you knew it from early on.
Yes.
At all. All right. So for some people that I have on here, they're either a late bloomer mm-hmm. and then just dive deep, or someone like you who know from a very young age. So since you knew from a very young age, how then do you start conducting yourself as such to give yourself the best chance to be where you are now?
I would say definitely the relationships that I built, seeing the older guys, I'm playing 6, 7 years old, seeing the older guys that's, 13, 14 years old, talking to them, all right, what y'all doing now? So I could start doing it now so that when I get to their level, I'm a little above the game. So that was really the main thing, talking to the older guys and seeing what they're doing, stretching at home, doing push-ups before bed and stuff like that really gave me a little edge, I say.
Now, why did you feel the need that you had to do that? Did you feel like you were behind?
No, not far as not really behind. Just well, one thing about me, I'm a hard worker, so I didn't want nobody to outwork me on my team. I remember I was mighty my year. We used to do sprints every day, and it was a kid on my team, my friend Justin. We used to always sprint every day, and we would race all the time. So it was just I can't let him beat me, every day, or we would take turns. But I just always wanted the edge, and that was really where I got my all right, I need the edge. So I started asking questions.
Nice. And then how do you go up to people? Because most people, right? I think in the beginning, especially in athletic world, mm-hmm. there's some who just super quiet, yeah. And you seem like a pretty quiet guy to begin with, mm-hmm. but most people wouldn't go out their way to say hey, I need some help, because in a competitive world, mm-hmm. that's almost frowned upon.
Yeah. I would say I used to be nervous. My father, he definitely will push, or he ask for me. It wasn't always, I'll go ask, but sometimes he just be yo, just go ask him. And then it got to the point where I just all right, let me just ask him. Just got a lot of good responses. It's different from a little kid telling an older kid this and that than a father saying it. So when I figured that out, I was just all right, let me just ask these questions, and the least they could say is no, I can't help you. And then a lot of times I got a lot of Jews that really help me excel in my game.
Yeah, that's smart, man, because again, if they say no, they can't help you, you're just exactly where you are now. You're not better, you're not worse. I'm like you. I'm the type of guy who I would ask questions for mm-hmm. everything. If I'm lost just a little bit, I would ask question. My wife like get embarrassed. It was like, why are you asking people for? I was like, dude, because I'm trying to get from point A to point B as fast as possible. Like I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel in anything at all. Like the wheel's invented. There's already fire that already made. Like just give me the way to do this. Like and I think having the internet, having YouTube is like a great start for our society. But also, what it also does is take some human component away from it, where if I can Google it, why would I need to ask someone? But when you start asking questions, you actually get, I like the story aspect of asking people for advice because, like, for example, like before we started this podcast, you and I were just talking to Coach Reem, and every time you ask Coach Reem, which we had on the podcast, if you guys haven't heard that episode, definitely go back. When you ask him for advice, he would give you an advice, but he'd tell it in a storytelling scenario. And then to me, the story aspect is really the gem, not the advice.
That's what really made it make sense. So
So what are some advice you got, that stick with you throughout your life since you were like, like 3rd, 4th grade?
I'm very big on YouTube. When I was a kid, I used to like a new cleat came out. I'm on YouTube looking it up and just seeing vlogs and people growing up. Was watching a lot of YouTube videos, watching highlights, watching workout videos. So that's why I always really pride myself on just really trying to get a great understanding of the game. That used to be like my extra film. Like I go watch, see, who's the other kids or stuff like that. Like when I was younger, Friday Night Tights used to be on a show on Netflix. So I used to watch that show all the time. I watch it before games, and that gave me motivation to be like, oh, no, I could do this too. I could do it better. And that was really what really gave me like, now it's time to go. Like it's really time to really focus on why I'm not getting the same limelight as them, and I know I'm working 10 times as harder. So that really helped as well.
Yeah, I think that's a positive influence of social media, right?
Yes.
It gives you access to other people that you otherwise would not have access to. And I think the bad thing was that when you start comparing, it makes you feel down really quickly. But when you start doing it where like, all right, they're doing this, I'm not doing that yet, I should be doing that, right? It's a point of feedback. I think that's what relevant about it. So at which point where you feel like, you're like, you know what, I can actually do this and I can probably compete at the highest level. Do you have like is it a gradual thing where you start believing that, hey, this is happening, this is what's going on? Or is it a flip thing, a moment thing where like, oh, you have a big aha moment?
I would say both because, sometimes it's like, you work for this, like this is, I've been grinding since I was very young. So you'd be like, almost like it's still unreal. Like I signed yesterday to Notre Dame. It's just like, dang, I signed, like, so it's always still unreal. But when you at a certain point in your career, when you know that you worked hard and you work for what you deserve, it's like, all right, it's a great feeling. Like, all right, yeah, I deserve this, but I gotta work harder.
Yeah, and I love that, man. Like I fortunately for me, I have worked with people at the highest level, in different levels, right? So I've worked with someone like you who's at the highest level in high school. I also work with someone who is at the highest level in college, and then someone is the highest level in pro. And we all have this, we all need to go through this whole beginner process all over again, right? You come in from middle school, get into high school, you are now a beginner. You have to work your way up through the rank. Guess what? When you go to Notre Dame, it's the same thing. You got to do it all over again. And then if you're the guy in Notre Dame, and then when you go to the pros, it's the exact same thing over again. And I think that is essentially what life is about, is that you just always evolving into a better version of yourself through all the challenges and the tests that is ahead of you, right? And again, most people, if they're honest with themselves, they might be like, hey man, this might be it for me. Like I don't see myself doing it more. I'm too tired. I'd rather focus something else. I think it's like, all right, great. But for some people, it's like, like Kobe, for example. Like you and I talk about Kobe all the time, where with Kobe, it's like the bar he set for himself is so much higher than what other people set for him. And I always think this, that like if I had an opportunity to meet Kobe and I asked him to tell me exactly like what he was thinking of how high he was, what he could get to, whatever he said would scare the crap out of me, because it would blow my mind, because he was thinking so high that not many people can even fathom of think of that high.
Exactly. And I definitely feel like that's a part of my game too, like that mama mentality, like always, I got to be the best on the field. You don't always got to, poke your chest out or thing, but you can always have that, not like that ambitious walk with you, you know what I'm saying? So that was one big thing. Like, I really love Kobe's game, and I really feel like he helped our generation, the young generation, and I see like, all right, yeah, there's somebody bigger, Jordan, but I want to be better. I want to start my own legacy, build my own legacy, be better. So he really helped like my generation with that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think he set the tone when it comes to extreme ownership of like taking everything into his own hand. Like, and again, I watched The Last Dance probably like 4 or 5 times, like just because I just enjoy that whole process. I every time I watch it, I take so many different away, both business lesson, life lesson, like just being competitor and all, just always trying to improve, right? And with Jordan, I think his big moment was like when he realized that, he was the best in the league, but he was not the best version of himself.
Yeah.
Isn't it like the craziest thing? Like, you're the best, but the best according to other people's standard is not good enough to your standard.
Yeah, and I'll say like that's that's a big thing that people always say, like, everybody gonna have their own opinions about you, but as long as you listening to the right people and having the right people in your corner, it's hard for them to to tear you down or let that get to your head, because people can say anything every day. I could walk down the street, somebody could say they don't like me, but they can't stop the way I move, they can't stop the way I walk. So it's just a feeling, not a feeling, but it's more so like a mindset. If your mindset is strong and you believe what you believe, and you believe in the people that you have, like, because your village is really everything. Like, once you build a strong foundation, it's hard for people to like take it down and tear it down, because this foundation, you built it with bricks, like brick by brick. So
yeah, and the foundation is everything, man. A building can only get so tall based on how strong the foundation is, right? If you look at the pyramid, it's always the widest at the bottom, and like, right, and I think as you get bigger and bigger in name, like, you need that more and more. So let's talk about when you start gaining that notoriety of like, you're a 4-star recruit coming out, you have all these offers. Like, how do you start managing that kind of pressure? Because it is pressure.
I would say like I felt as though I was always a person that was born into the light. So it wasn't really like a pressure thing for me. It's just like, oh, more eyes is watching, the spotlight just getting bigger. So it's just more time to thrive and show people like, yeah, this is the, I'm a real deal, and I'm really, who everybody says I am, and, who people, brag about. So.
And what about on, like, let's say on those dark times where, things didn't go your way, where you didn't live up to your standard? How do you then talk yourself out or bounce back from those situations?
Everybody, had their little moments where it's like, dang, like, is this really what I want to do? I have those all the time. But it's just always that bounce back mindset, like, all right, I got to get the next one, My sophomore year, I finished the season off really shaky. So that was like my wallpaper, me not finishing so strong. So going into my junior year, like, all the workouts, all the hard work, I look at my phone before all of those and like, all right, now, it's got to work, because I don't want to be in that same position, in that same predicament I was in last year. So it's just always, hard work. It's the mindset, though. You got to bounce back. Like, you just always got to keep that in your mind. You got to bounce back, because, not nobody could play the game for you. Like, it's you. So they could only say or help you as much as they can, but you have to have that talk with yourself. Like, you better than this. Like, you know what you set your mind for. The dedication, the hard work you put in. So you just got to work for it.
How do you? Let's go back to your sophomore season, right? Obviously, it didn't go the way you wanted. How do you take that and turn it into a positive criticism for yourself? How do you, like, what's that process look like to go in and break down your game and figure out what you need to work on?
I would say I definitely listen to my peers. It's hard. I would say, like, it's really hard to get constructive criticism from adults that don't play the game anymore. But like my peers, Old Dog, like him, my friend Mo, my friend Ice, like we sat down, like we really watched our films and like really talked about all the stuff that we could work on. And then my junior season, off season, like we really worked. Like, it was, all right, you remember you dropped this pick, like, we got to work and get better so we don't do that again. That was really the mindset. Like, talking to the peers, talking to the people that could relate to you. You know what I'm saying? People, the adults, they played the game in the 90s thing. Like football is way different now, but it's easier to relate to somebody that's doing the same exact thing as you. So,
how important is your peers to you as far as contribution to where you are now?
Very big. I couldn't, like, it's a village. Like, when I say village, I'm not just talking about like my parents, my aunts, my uncles. I'm talking about like my peers, my teammates, because they pushed me. Like, them hard summer days in the sun. I was out there with them. I wasn't just out there by myself. And it's like, workouts. We all work out together. It's not like, oh, I'm just doing this by myself or a thing. We all doing this together. So it's like, dang, if they doing it and we all working, we all striving, then we all, like, it's big. Like, we all got to, want it for each other. So that's a big thing.
Well, let's talk about that, right? Because I love talking about, like, the peer selection. Because I obviously, I wholeheartedly believe in this, that the people you surround yourself with is you're the average of those people. So how do you cultivate good circle?
I would say the situations that you're put in. God put everybody in different situations with different people to see how, we react and see how they react, so we could build a great, like, foundation and to build a great relationship with somebody. So, I would say, like, just them hard days where you working and you want to quit and your mans want to quit, but y'all work. Like, that's what sets aside, like, oh yeah, this is a lifetime friend, this is a long time, because those goes into the real world and real life situations. If you could depend on him on the field, then I feel as though I can depend on him in real life. So,
And has there been a time where you have to kind of, like, move forward with some friendship because things are different, you have different purposes, or like they just are not heading towards the same direction as you, and how difficult is that? Because I feel like if I have to go back to high school again, and for me to stop talking to some friends, like now, like for me, like my circle is very small, and when I stop talking to someone, it's not from a place like, yo man, I don't want to talk to you anymore. We just kind of like lost touch, right?
I would say definitely, I'm definitely the same way. I still had the same friends. I went to middle school and elementary school, but it was always, we all had the same goals. We all want to make it to the NFL. So if you surround yourself with people that want the same goals as you, it's very easy to not lose focus or not lose sight of the goal, because y'all all have the same goal in mind. Y'all all want to work towards it. And my friends are very competitive. Like, everything we do is competitive. So, we want to do everything first. We want to think. So when that's the friendship and the group of people that you have around you, it's a lot easier for you to do what you have to do.
Yeah, I think that's great, man. I mean, obviously, I know all your friends, most of them, and I know how dedicated they are at pushing. Like, I mean, like, shout out to Old Dog. I mean, like, man, that kid works his butt off. Like, he show up every single day. Yeah, every day. Like, I was just talking to him the other day just to check in and see how he's doing. Like, he obviously had a great season, great comeback.
Yes.
Like, I got to get him on here. Like, his situation was no easy walk. Let's just say that. But he thrived well. So, like, that I appreciate. Like, because you're right. Your friendship gets stronger based on the situation, the challenges that you guys face together. And the harder the challenges, the deeper the relationship gets. And I totally believe that. Like, I only talked to 2 friends from high school, and we went through stuff together. And those are, like, the guys I can always call upon and talk about life, business, whatever it is, because we all just kind of go in the same direction. Right. And now let's talk about your recruitment process and everything else. How do you, or what advice can you give when it comes to picking out what school? Because you're one of the few that have plenty of opportunities, plenty of choices. How do you, like, hey, you know what? Based on this is where I want to go.
I would say first the relationships you build with the people that's there. You gotta think about it like this. Like, it's like going to high school. These coaches that you're gonna be getting coached by, these gonna be the coaches for the next 4 years. Are you gonna be able to, take the hard coaching from them, take the way they say things, take the way they coach? Because not everybody can coach the same. And I would say another thing is the school. Don't go to the school because of a logo. The logo, it's a logo. Like, you got to go to school because the school really wants you, or that's the school that's showing the most interest to you. So that would be one of the biggest things. But definitely the relationship that you have with the coaches goes a long way. And I feel as though going to the Notre Dame family, I feel as though it's the same as going to Irvington, because the coaches really care about the players. They don't really care about who the next person they could bring in. They're trying to develop kids. It's not like a business or NFL where it's like, oh, all right, he's the next first round draft pick. Let's go get him. Let's go get him. So that's really a big thing. Just definitely the relationship that you build and the relationship that you have with them coaches. That's why you should make your decision, not off is the campus cool or who's there, how many people will come to the games. All that stuff comes, with the territory, with the process.
So how would you then judge or evaluate the relationship that you have? Because obviously I assume that you would talk to tons of coaches.
Yeah.
How do you what stood out about the relationship that you have with the coaches at Notre Dame that obviously supersede all the other relationship that you have with other coaches?
It wasn't always about football with them. Most schools, I ain't gonna say no names, but schools a lot of times just really talk about the football aspect and football and what they could do and where I could go. In the NFL, that's my dream, but I also want to be, have a strong business degree and thing. And that was really the first time I talked to Coach Freeman. He literally had a Zoom presentation, and football was literally like the last slide of it. And it was really just about the 40 for 40 aspect of it and, what Notre Dame can bring and the relationships that they could have. And, I want to own a business and do things on Wall Street. And he said, they're one of the biggest schools that has that. So when he came to me and told me, showed me that, it's not just about football at that school, that's really what me and my parents really liked about that school. It wasn't about football. It was just, football is a part of it, but your main thing is to get there and get an education. So that's what I really like.
Yeah, and I always preach this, right? Because, football is a vehicle, just like business is a vehicle for me to live a certain lifestyle and to get to a certain goal in life.
Yes.
And because it's a vehicle, it's not a way I dictate my life, right? My business is not my life, and just like football is an aspect of your life, but it's not your entire life. So I think to have that separation, I think is very wise, because most of the time people would choose, like you said, for the logo, they want to go to Power 5 school, they want to say they play for Power 5, but then when you get there, they'll put you in a, and this is real world like scenario where people would just put you in a major that you would pass, so that way you can be on the field, and then by the time you leave college,
you can't even use your degree in the real world.
Yeah, or to me, I look at college differently now that I'm a little bit older. And when I went to college, I went to community college first, and I was just all right, let me get all these classes out the way. Then I went to University of Maryland to get a degree in exercise science, because I want to get better at at what I do. And at that time I was doing personal training, I was coaching, right? So I was all right, this is going to help me build my skill set.
Yeah.
And then after that I went to PT school, but I look at college as a way to accumulate skill set rather than skill set and also connection, because those are very important things.
Are very, very huge in this world, in today's society, because the relationships you build in these days now in time could change your life. You call a friend that you went to school with back in high school, and they might be a multimillionaire that could get you a job or start your family, and different stuff like that. So going to college and going to Notre Dame would definitely, I feel as though, was the best situation and the best spot for me, because I know the relationships I build could really help me out in the future, along with football and other things.
Yeah, no, 100%, man. And the point is, don't go to school to get a communication major or a sociology major, where if you're coming out, and I always say this, hey, imagine 4 years from now after you graduate, would you be in a better place with that degree? And football is not an equation. If the answer is no, you need to go back and reevaluate the decision you're about to make right now. If you're coming out with a degree that is not going to help you, father your life or your career trajectory, then do something differently, or go to a different school that believe in you as a student first and also as an athlete, because most of the time they recruit you as an athlete and not as a student.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's definitely the case with most schools. They they think about the 3 years you could do, the quick major to make sure you're eligible, but it's more than that. Especially nowadays, what and things could help certain people. You could build your brand and build a lot of things, but if you don't have the right foundation to it, it's hard.
Mm-hmm. So within the past, I think, let's say 3 years, I feel like the past 3 years, the recruitment, the portal, the NIL totally changed the landscape of how you behave as an athlete and what your future would hold. Like, how do you adjust to all those changes?
For me, it was easy because like all of that money and all of that, it's cool and all. But if you told me the NFL wasn't a job, I wouldn't care. Like, I always loved the game. Like, I wasn't getting paid in Pop Warner to play football. So, it's still the same thing now. Like, I'm in high school. I'm not getting paid to play. So,
yeah,
it's just, it wasn't really nothing for me. It didn't really change my decision on why I wanted to go to Notre Dame.
Yeah.
I just want to get an education and play football. If I make money, I make money. But, football is enough for me.
Yeah, I love that, man. You always have this humble air about you where it's never about the glamour. It's just all about the passion and the love for the sport. And I think that is like one of the biggest traits when I interview people who are very successful at any sport that they play, is that they have the passion for it, right? And for me, I like how I compete, and I was thinking about this, and as I was preparing for our podcast, it was like I compete not on a field, but I compete in the field of business, because business to me is like war without bullets. And the way that's how I compete at the highest level, right? I'm not, listen, like I have all these kids telling me that I look better now. I look jacked, right? And they just gas me up. But like, I know that like athletically speaking, like I'm not where I used to be, but like mentally, like I'm like sharper than I am now, like than I ever was. And all I think about is like, I'm just trying to apply that same competitiveness that, you apply to the field, but I just do in business. And the way I do things in here, and listen, man, you know me for the past 3 years, and we didn't start out like this. And for me, it's like, how do I keep leveling up? And because to me, like, people can come in here, it's like, man, this is great. You did it. I'm like, and a part of me, and I say this to my wife, and my wife is the only one to get me, like, I was like, if people knew what I think, how big my dreams are in my head, it would scare people. Yeah,
for real. And it's like, that's been my mindset playing football too, I'm going to Notre Dame and all, and 4-star and all that. But that wasn't the goal. The goal was be 5-star all world, and so that was always the goal. I'm where I want to be, but my goals was higher than I actually achieved. So that's gonna keep me working. And I feel as though people they fall off once they feel as though they reach their goals. Your goals is never reached. You can reach for the sky. So if you don't let the ceiling be your limit, then it's the sky is the limit for real.
Yeah. And I think this just go into parallels, right? Because like both our superhero motto is Batman, and we can talk about this. And like if you look at the trajectory of Batman, is that the first thing he wanted to do was revenge the death of his parents, right? That's the main thing. And then he uses the bat, which is the symbol of his own fear, to then project his fear into someone else's. And then as the character evolved throughout like the comic, throughout the time that he become more and more into Batman, his mission didn't change, right? His goal get bigger, right? Like, let's say we end up, finding like, Falcone, who end up like killing his parent. Like, it doesn't stop, like, because he's just like, no, I actually have a bigger calling. Now, for you, what is that big calling? I know like football is the vehicle, right? But what else are you doing it for? Because I know like if you're just doing it for the love of football, it will stop you at some point, but I know there's gotta be something that's deeper than that. I kind of want to push you to expand on that a little bit more.
I would say definitely my village. They've been with me where they work hard. They work hard with me, so it's like I got to do this for them. Like I can't, my grandmother, my little brothers, my family, all the people that's back home. They're looking at me. They're like, Don doing this. That's somebody to look up to, all my little cousins and stuff. So it's really it's not so more about me anymore. It's about, the people, the community of Irvington. I was walking in the hallway today in school. Today was my last day. One of the coaches was like, yo, you get that degree, you did it for all of us. And I was like, yeah, that's been my goal, throughout when I first started and, from 3 years ago, like, yo, once I make it, it's not just for me, it's for all, all the people that helped me, achieve my goals, to tell me, to push me to work harder. So that's always been my goal. It wasn't about, I love the game of football, but, I know what football can do for me and my family. So,
yeah, I love that, man, because you're like obviously mission driven when it comes to that. And I think like having you on or having you have your own platform, I think what's good is that it shows possibility of what you can accomplish, as an individual with the right group of people in mind, with the right mindset, with the right attitude toward challenges. I think, and I'm a visual learner. I like to observe other successful people before me. And like I mentioned before, I'm the type of guy that I don't want to invent anything. All I want to do is follow the breadcrumb that left for me. And every time someone give me the accolades, I always say, like, I didn't do anything new. All I did was I just followed people's footsteps. Like, where I am now is I stand on top of, the shoulder of giants that came before me. Like, all the books I read, these are the people that already accomplished. Like, listen, like, all the film you study, right? Like, there's great football players before. Yeah,
and that's definitely something I apply to my game. I played with Makai, Justin. They went to school. They went to Nebraska. All world type of kids. But it's like, nah, there was Makai. I want my own category. I want to be my own. I want to have my own conversation. That was also my biggest thing. Like, I learned from them. I see how the way they play, and I want to use what they have and, a little bit of my own swag to really take my game to the next level. So people not just talking about Makai or Justin. Now they talking about Adon. So, definitely watching the people that came before me and seeing what they did and seeing how long they, did what they did, did what they did. Like, I have a mentor, Josh Evans, he went to Irvington, played safety, played quarterback, had 80 tackles, as a thing. And last year he had it as a senior. So I texted him. I'm like, bro, you had, 80 tackles as a senior. I'm going to get 80 this as a junior. And, I did it. This year I had 100. So it's always, as you said before, evolving. I want to be better than him. He played 5 years in the league. I want to play 20. Like, so it's just always that's always been my mindset to, outwork the people that came before me and do it better than they did.
Yeah, I love that, man. I think, I don't know, have you heard of this concept called the 5 minute mile?
Nah.
All right, so I'll tell you the story because it was told to me, and it totally changed my perspective. So I think early in the running world, right, in the beginning, people said that it was impossible to run a 5 minute mile. It's not humanly possible. No one's can do it. Like, it's just not a thing, right? Next thing you know, someone come in, did a 5 minute mile, and a year later, someone come in, did even a faster mile. It's a 4 minute and 58 second. And next thing you know, someone come in do it faster. So, what I love is that you're creating your own 5 minute mile. So that way someone else can be like, oh, that's a Don 5 minute mile. What's
Adon
my
got one championship now? I need to get 4.
Yeah.
And that's always been the goal. You just told me. I ain't never heard that phrase before, but that's always been the mindset. Like, yo, so I did good. All right, now somebody else got to do. I won a championship. Somebody else got to do it back to back. So
yeah. And I love it, man. Like, we do it in here all the time. Like, every time we have like a monthly goal, I'm like, guys, like, we got to hit our 5 minute mile. Like, that's the language that we do. And this is why I love, like, watching football, right? Because each play is his own thing. Each down is his own thing. So you always have a chance to do better, right? And, like, I'm sure, like, I've seen you, like, on the sideline where if you didn't do the best play, I know, like, you're shaking your head, you're tapping your helmet, you're like, all right, next play. Like, that's on me, not going to happen again.
Yeah, exactly. And that's definitely, especially the position I play. I play defensive back, and I feel as though that's one of the hardest positions in football to play. And you got to have a short-term memory, but you also got to remember what just happened. Like, you have a bad play, it's football. Everybody's human, so you're going to have a bad play, but it's just how you bounce back. Like, I can hit my head and say, I'm going to get it next time, and then don't get it next time. Then I'm not learning nothing from that. But if you really hone in, like, all right, let me take a deep breath. I messed up, or I missed this tackle. All right, let me break down and remember all the stuff I was taught. It goes a long way though. It definitely goes a long way. With your mindset, like, if you believe that you worked harder than everybody that you playing against, and thing is gonna, you definitely gonna know, and you don't have to let nobody else have to tell you, like, oh yeah, you're better than these people, because you know it, like, you feel it.
Yeah. And I mean, you're never a talker, man. I love that. Like, you let your action do a lot of stuff for you. And I think that speaks volume because, again, I talked to Makai, I talked to all you guys before, and I'd say, like, like most of the time it's just noise. Yeah. And, like, people just come at you just because that's all they can really do, right? There's no action behind their words. I think if you let your actions speak for your words, I think that's probably the best thing you can do. And to play in that position, that DB position, I think that's, and I appreciate this so much, and especially, working with, like all you guys, because you're in a position where it's a reactive position, but it's also a active position in a way where, you know, you react to the wide receiver, you react to the play, but you have an opportunity if you are sharp enough and to pick things up that you can then proactively and actively change the tone of the game.
Yes, exactly. And I feel that's why I believe, like, you know, it's the hardest position. You know, you got a 4-2, 4-3, 6-4 receiver running at you, then you got to break when they break, and you don't know what they're running, and then you don't know how the quarterback's throwing the ball. So I really feel as though, you know, that's something I enjoy. I love going into games with butterflies. Like, you know, this is another one. You know, that's a big thing for me. Like, if I'm not feeling them butterflies before a game, then it's like, I know I ain't gonna have a good game. But every time I feel the butterflies, and I'm like, all right, you know, I know what I got to do. You know, I know that I play the hardest position in football. Like, you know, that thrives me. That makes me feel better because it's like, all right, if he's doing what he's doing and he's playing, you know, receive. Let's say he had 2 touchdowns, but I had 2 touchdowns at DB. I'm like, yeah, well, I know I'm working harder than him because it's harder for me to do what I'm doing than it is for him.
Yeah, that's true. So even in your position, man, like you have to be in the moment. You can't get caught up in your thought because then next thing you know, the guy is gone.
Yep.
So how do you keep yourself focusing on the moment so that way you're not getting trapped in some other things and next thing you know, the receiver just blew by you?
I'll definitely say, my coach says this all the time, you know, pressure is a privilege. So, you know, when pressure comes, you know, you could either bust a busted pipe or you could make a diamond. So when you do that, you know, you just always got to stay, you know, calm. All right, I know what he's doing. Like, and another thing, film. If you watch film, it slows the game down for you. So, you know, that's definitely a big tip I could give to a lot of people because that's what a lot of people told me. You know, you got to get in the film room. You know, once I got in the film room my junior year, it was like, this is the game. Like, why it's so slow? Like, you know, things are just happening so slow, and you get to make plays that you wasn't making the year before because you know exactly what they're doing, and you know they're looking at you like, whoa, like why are you in the spot I'm supposed to be? So that was definitely, you know, that's definitely something big.
Is it crazy, man? When you're in the zone, everything's slow down, and I was saying this because I had an opportunity to watch Pat Mahomes play last year against the Eagles, and I was just watching how he moves, and like, he just looked like he moved and he see things in a slow motion. Yeah. Where I was watching him, like, you know, playing against Jalen Hurts, and it was like his second year. He's not a seasoned Mahomes, but you can say, like, there's a great amount of effort for Jalen to move the ball, to react, where Mahomes, it was almost like air. Yeah. Like, you know, like, and like, what does that feel like when you're in the zone?
You know, it feels like, you know, you don't hear nothing. It's like the stadium silent. You know, you get your call from the people, you talk to them, but it's like, all right, once you lock in, it's like you talking to yourself. Like, I'm definitely talking to myself all the time when I'm on the field. So I'm talking to myself. I'm saying in my head, like, all right, it's a run. Let me, you know, get my gap, or it's a pass. He running that out route, a post, you know. So it's just like you just feel it. Like, you just feel, no, you can't hear nothing. You know, it's like it's just you're locked in, tunnel vision, and that's how you know you in your zone.
Do you spend? I was talking to your friend Brian this morning, and he was reflecting on how, like, he spent a lot of time, like, to himself, thinking, reflecting. Is that something that you do as well?
Yes, definitely. You know, definitely before the season starts, I always sit down, you know, sit on the field, you know, an hour before practice, just sit there, just look and think, you know, reflect on what I want to do this season, always write down my goals. One thing I always do, I got this from prom, like, the day before the game, I always put my fit for the game on the floor, and I sit there and imagine all the plays I'm gonna make, and I've been doing that since I was in Pop Warner, so you know, that's something I do, you know, get my fit out, change it 30 times, make sure it look good, and then envision myself making the plays that I know I could make.
That's great, man. And the fact that you kind of picked that up is crazy because mental imagery is literally the best thing that anyone can do. And I can say this because my wife's a psychologist, and all she talks about is mindfulness meditation, right? Yeah. And then you have this theater, this play. You almost like you have your own film session in your head. Yeah. And then you just go through things, and the study shows that the more you do that, the more you get in the zone, the more you rehearse mentally, the better it is for you. And that's why, you know, like in baseball, it's actually huge because baseball, when they throw like fastball at you like over 100 miles, the greatest hitters can see those things in slow motion.
And that's definitely how the game goes because, you know, once you envision yourself making the plays, and then it's like, you're in that position in the game, it's like, oh, I just dreamed about this last night. I just talked to myself about this last night. There's no reason I shouldn't make this play.
Yeah. And, well, to invest time into that, clearly you have to prioritize your life, prioritize your schedule. How do you then create, how do you block out some distraction, right, as a student athlete? And now how do you create time for yourself, your personal life?
I would say, I had a teacher last year. He was my business teacher, actually. He told me time management is everything. You're in high school now, so, a lot of stuff is really managed for you. But when you get in the real world, everything is, you got to manage it on your own. So, I took it upon myself to, like, start managing things and start doing things better and change the way I was managing stuff, because it was just like, our football was just my life, and then school wasn't thing. But, I was still doing what I was doing in school, but it's just like, I feel like I'm rushing to do work and things. So when I was able to take my time doing my work and then football, and then I just go home and relax, it was just like, all right, everything's coming smoother. But definitely with the distractions, I play the game a lot. So, me and my friends, we play the game, that gets you, that keeps you out of trouble. You're in the game playing. Yeah. So that's definitely something I would do, watch TV, watch YouTube. I'm not really like a person that goes out a lot. So, I guess that really helped me as well. But just the distraction, everybody tells you, the distractions, but it definitely is hard to you see a distraction and, it's hard for you to say no or thing, but you just got to remember your goals. And that was always my thing. Like, nah, I can't do what what such and such is doing, because I know he's not on the same level as me, or they're not on the same level as me. They don't want to go where I want to go, and they don't, their future doesn't hold the same as mine. So that was always my mindset.
Yeah. And I think it's on a surface level, and I can say this, is that because I express myself like that all the time, right? And what I mean by that, no disrespect to anyone, is that when you have climb up out of a certain position you're in, that climb is harder and is longer, and the fall is also the steepest. Yeah. So, when you say stuff like that, most people will be like, well, Don and Natty really think they're better than people.
Nah,
but
that's not what it is.
Yeah.
It's just the mindset is different, because you know where you want to go, and some people don't have the same goals and the same desire and the same passion that you have for something. So it's not like, oh, we feel as though we're better than them, but it's just like our mindset is not on the same thing right now. But you know how it is. Yeah,
and I love that, man. I think the fact that you can, dude, the best thing about that is that you made that realization at the age that you are now, and that's going to give you rocket fuel into your career, because most people will wrestle with that for the rest of their lives. They will feel guilty about it. And I learned this from one of my business mentors, and this whole concept really changed the way I think, is that most people have this imaginary thermostat, right? So you obviously when it's hot out, you set your thermostat at a certain level, like 65 degrees, and the air will turn on and stop there, right? Yeah. People will do that when it comes to their income or their level of success. So what happened is that if people say, I am a D1 athlete, they set their thermostat that they will only behave as such that they're a D1 athlete. But if your thermostat is that I am a Pro Bowler in the NFL, now your thermostat is better. And what happened is that when the guy with the D1 athlete thermostat started behaving like a pro caliber, subconsciously, that person would start self-sabotaging, like pretty much blocking their own blessing, because it's incongruent with what their thermostats say, right? So it's just so crazy that the power of the narrative of your mindset says a lot of things, and I think the fact that you know that, you realize that now, I think it's wonderful, man. Yeah. And you shouldn't feel guilty about it. You shouldn't apologize for it. And the way I cope with that, is I just like you, but I just say it like, hey, we're on a different path. Yeah. That's it. Yeah, exactly. No disrespect. I'm on my path. You're on your path. Like the way I work, most people say I wouldn't want to work as much as you, and I would say, yeah, that's totally cool. I wouldn't want to do as as much as you.
Yeah. Now, another thing, like, I watched movies growing up, and I watched shows. Franklin, from Snowfall. Yeah, that's one of my favorite shows and stuff. But his mindset is not to. He doesn't want to be the same person that he was working. He was working for somebody. He wants. He was always. Now he's a businessman, and he definitely understood, like, if I stay and if I get too comfortable and too complacent, then I'm not going to be the same. And that was the same for a movie I watched called Paid in Full. He.
Oh man, you throwing it back?
Yeah, bro.
Wow,
like, for me,
jeez.
So it's my father. We watch all these movies, and that was always the goal. Like, don't get complacent. Like, when you get complacent, that's when somebody's working you, or somebody while you sleeping and thinking you want top, somebody out working you to get to the top. You know, the pyramid is a pyramid, so it's straight like a triangle. Once you get at the top, you got to fall down.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, that was always been my mindset. Like, you know, I can't let nobody outwork me. I got to stay on that pyramid for as long as I can.
Yeah, and listen, man, the way not to fall off the pyramid, right? Just keep building it.
Yep. Exactly.
If you keep building the top, you're never at the top.
Exactly. For real. So, you know, that's always been the goals. You know, watching movies, watching people. You know, watching people older than me, seeing their you know, success stories, seeing their downfalls. You know, just honing in on what they're doing and what they didn't do, or you know, people that didn't have a good grades, and it's like, oh, now they can't find a school. You know, I never wanted to be that kid, or you know, having that type of stress on my. You know, I got a lot of stress, and I'm doing the right thing. So I could only imagine if I wasn't doing the right things, the amount of stress I would have.
I know, isn't it crazy? Where, and as I get older, I appreciate the routine that I have and everything, because it keeps me in line with my goals and what I'm trying to do with my vision. And I love that you just said that, man. I love that I just learned that from you, is that like like if you think life is hard now by following your routine to do this thing, imagine how chaotic it would be when
if
you have
if you know, made bad decisions or made the decisions that you thought would have been the right thing. So, you know, that was definitely something that my parents instilled in me. You know, just live a good, easy lifestyle. You know, do the right things, and when you do the right things, you know, great things will happen for you. You know, you're gonna build relationships with people. You know, also like the relationship that you build with people now, you know, can go a long way. You know, I feel as though I could call Smoke, Coach Reem, Coach Nemi, you know, a lot of people from my childhood, from my Pee Wee, Pop Warner coaches. And I feel like I could call them right now, and they, you know, will give me the best advice they could, because I've always been a great person to them.
Yeah, no, I love it, man. And I mean, before we end, like, obviously I know you're the oldest in your family. You have how many siblings?
Two.
So what does it mean to you, man, to be a big brother, to do all these things?
You know, just like I said before, you know, the spotlight, you know, people watching, you know, my little brothers come in the house, or they see some college mail, and I'll tell them, like, bro, now it's your turn. You know, I got some schools in here that, you know, they sending me mail, but they didn't offer. So now I need you to have their head coach in the living room, you know, so mom and dad can see them. So that's always the thing. Like, I just always tell my little brothers, you know, y'all gotta outwork me, yo. You know, y'all on visits now, y'all going to the All-American. Boy, I tell my little brothers, you know, it's a lot of little kids that's not going here, that's not gonna get this experience. So you better, you know, use it wisely. You know, take it to your advantage. You know, you meeting the head coach of Notre Dame, you could talk to him whenever you want. You gotta take that to your advantage. So when it's your turn, you know, you could do that. I always saying that to my middle little brother, so you could do that to the younger. And I keep telling both of them, like, yo, y'all gotta work. Like, it's not gonna be just because, you know, I'm a Don and, you know, your father is who he is. You know, it's work. Like, y'all gotta make your own legacy. Like, it's not about me anymore. It's about you. So that's always been the thing. Like, I don't sit here and be like, oh, you know, yeah, I did this right, I did that. Nah, you gotta, your relationships, the people that you meet, the decision that you make is gonna benefit you. You know, you can call me for anything, but you have to live your life the way you want to. I don't want them to feel like, oh, they're living in my shadow. So.
Yeah, and I love that. I think if you give people the freedom to pave their own path, but then also leverage what you created for them. Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes people get offended, and us as PT too, like especially me, I used to get offended when I give people advice like, hey, do this thing, it'll get you to do better. And then if they don't do it, I'm like, why don't they do it, this and that? And I used to take it personal, but then sometimes some people are just not ready for that advice yet. Exactly. And I think there's a time for it. And I think, you know, I'm the oldest in my family. I have a younger sister, and like there's time I'm like, man, you should have just listened to what I've said. But sometimes they need to learn that on their own way. And I think the fact that you give them the freedom, like, hey man, you see what I did? You could do the same, or you can make it better, but just make sure it's your own path. You know, this is something that you want. Yeah. You know, because it's a lot of sacrifice.
Yeah, because when, you know, I feel as though, like, you know, you see a lot of kids or a lot of people that's, you know, like actors. That's you know, that's a prime example of me and my parents. Like, a lot of kid actors, you know, they don't like it no more. You know, they're depressed and things because they was, like, bored onto it. Like, you know, their parents, like, oh, you know, they're forcing them into it. I never want, you know, nobody to be forced into something they didn't want to do. You know, me and my father always tell my little brothers, like, yo, you don't want to play football, you don't have to do that. Like, but, you know, you always gonna, you know, work, and, you know, you're gonna have to earn everything. You know, nothing is gonna be given to you. But, you know, football don't have to be the sport for you. You know, just as long as you're being successful and, you know, using what, you know, God gave you to elevate your, you know, yourself. You know, football doesn't have to be what you use. You know, so that was always a big thing, not to force, you know, a sport or force something on somebody. That's always been like something I really enjoy.
Yeah, I love it, man. Before I let you go, I'm gonna ask you this question. If someone, asks about you and they want to know about you, what is it that you want people to know you for?
I would say I'm a very ambitious person. I'm never gonna I feel as though I'm one person that will never lose sight of the hard work. I know where I came from. I know where I don't want to go. So being ambitious is something that I definitely am. Just being able to be in the positions that I was in and to get out of them, and to be the person I am today. And for me to be the humble person I am today, I know I'll never lose my ambition for what I want and what my goals are.
Yeah, awesome, man. I love it. I don't think we can. I don't think we can drag it out any longer. I think that was a great final answer. Hey Don, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate your time, and we're all just incredibly proud of you here. We love having you around, and I think and there's one thing that I observed last time when you were here, and is that you're just always humble, and you make people feel like they're not beneath you. You're always good at going up to people, talk to anyone, even like kids that we have here, and I think that's a gift, man. I think it's something that cannot be taught, and I think it's just something that you have innately in you, and I'm just excited to watch your future blossom just because the amount of work you put in, man. So congratulations on everything, bro.
Thank you. I definitely appreciate that. A lot of relationships happen like that. I met people just like that. That wasn't too bougie or they made it this far thing. So just for them to being able to have a conversation and call them and talk to them, that's what really made me feel as though I need to do the same thing because I got to give back the same way somebody did to me.
Awesome, man. Look forward to it. So obviously the All-American game's coming up.
Yes.
You want to just plug in there so they can root for you?
Yeah. January 7th on NBC. It's around I believe 1 o'clock thing. I don't know what number I'm wearing yet, but it's gonna be there. So I'm gonna be playing and represent New Jersey and Irvington.
Nice, man. And where can people follow you?
Adon Shuler _ is my main is my Instagram and my Twitter. So
awesome, man. Don, thank you so much, bro.
Thank you.